I actually do have a Bible story for you this morning, and it's from Genesis, and it's actually the one found in the real version of chapter 12. And unlike the previous story, it really is relevant to this morning's lesson. Returning home to truth. And so I want you to remember as I talk about this story out of Genesis that the Bible is our story. It's the story of you. It's the story of me. It's the story of our evolution in consciousness. This story in chapter 12 of Genesis happened when Abraham was 75 years old. And God said to him, "Get thee out of thy country, from thy kindred, and from thy father's home, unto a land that I will show thee, and I will make of thee a great nation." Wow. Get thee out of thy home. Leave your country.
So
Just get on out. And so Abraham with his wife, and do you remember who went with him? Lot. His brother's son. And they took their possessions and they went to the land of Canaan, and there they became rich. But, you know, it's interesting. The herdsmen of Lot and the herdsmen of Abraham, they couldn't get along, and they had so many herds that the land wouldn't support it. And that's a different story. We're going to go there another day, because I heard you talk about where they were in that land of Canaan. That was the plains around Sodom and Gomorrah. Another day. But Lot and Abraham decided they had to divide up. And Abraham said, "You take your place. You pick." And so Lot picked these beautiful, fertile plains. And Abraham took the hilly land in the hills of Hebron. And so one day, Abraham was feeling kind of low. Here he is on this rocky, hilly land, and he gets a little discontent. I gave all that good land to Lot, and I'm up here. Oh, and this is not so great. And I thought I was supposed to found a new nation, and here I am in an old rocky hill, and look how old I am, and my dream is gone, and oh, woe is me. Have we ever thought that? Mm-hmm. And once again, the voice of God came to him and told the old man, "Come outside. Lift up thine eyes from the place where thou art, northward and southward, eastward and westward, for all the land that thou seest, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed forever." And suddenly, Abraham was filled with new energy. He had a new sight. He had a new insight. He looked up. It wasn't so bad. It wasn't, "Oh, woe is me" anymore. He changed his thoughts. He got a sense of how far the horizon was. And his soul was revived. Can you think about a time where you really felt really down, and then you were able to get yourself up, and you had that sense of, it's not as bad as I thought it was? Yeah, we've all been there. So biblical passages have a rich and specific meaning for us if we look beyond the surface. Abraham in this story represents our consciousness, your consciousness and my consciousness. And we'd get that place. We get to that place where this is all I can see, and oh my gosh, it's not good enough. And then we look up. You know, it might be something like a new grandbaby, or a new recipe, or a craft project, or a sunny day after weeks of rain. And everything looks brighter. We went from a thought of less to a thought of more. And that's our lesson in life, to always change from this to that. And there's no one who can do it for us. We can't marry that. We've tried. We can't go to the bank and borrow that. And we've tried. We can't buy it. And we've tried. In the long run, Abraham stuck with God and he flourished. In other words, he returned home to the truth. And the phrase in the Bible story, "Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto the land I will show thee, and I will make thee a great nation." What does that symbolize to us? It symbolizes that we need to leave wherever we are. We need to let go of whatever we're holding on to get to that which is better. And that's sometimes hard because we have to leave the old. Think about how many years we held on to our old building. And it was hard to leave the old building. And we're here, and you know, it's not quite right yet. You know, we still got construction going on. Last Sunday after y'all left, we had a flood in the building. Oh, woe is me. But I look up and I know that every day something's getting done. Every day there are people here working, and I know that I'm going to turn around and one day it's going to actually be here where we're going to be in our new sanctuary. Instead of a piece of tape on the floor, it's going to be a physical structure. Can you imagine how your musicians and I are going to feel when we have a stage that is 40 feet wide and 11 feet deep? Awesome. But right now, oh, woe is me. I had more room on Trimble Road. But it's what it is always in consciousness. We have to let go of the lesser in order to have more, in order to have greater. And there's this little story, and I know I've told it before, but I love the story. It's about a little girl who was about 5 years old, and her name was Jenny, and she had these bouncy yellow curls. And one day she was at the store with her mom, and there as they were walking down an aisle, she saw a little pearl necklace, and she wanted it. And her mom looked at it and said, "Well, you know, it's $1.95. You know, you'll get some money at your birthday, and you can do chores, and you can buy that." And so when Jenny got home, she opened her piggy bank and she shook all the money out, 17 cents. And so she started doing chores. She even went next door and did chores. And sure enough, her birthday came, and somehow her grandparents gave her just enough money that she could go buy that necklace. And she loved that necklace. And she wore that necklace with such pride. Every day when she got dressed, she put her pearls on, and she felt so grown up. And she was so happy. Now, Jenny had a very loving daddy, and he really cared about her, and every night he would read her a story. And one night he said, "Jenny, do you love me?" And she said, "Of course, Daddy, you know I love you." And he said, "Well, I love you too. Give me your pearls." "Oh, Daddy, those are my pearls." "I don't think so. You can have my horsey, the one with the pink hair, my favorite one. You can have that one." "Okay, Jenny, that's all right." And days went by, and every now and then, Daddy would ask, "Jenny, do you love me?" And Jenny would say, "Yeah, Daddy, I love you." And Daddy would say, "Well, Jenny, would you give me your pearls?" "No, Daddy, these are my pearls. I love them." "You can have my baby doll. The brand new one I got for my birthday. She's beautiful, and you can have the yellow blanket that goes with her." And Daddy said, "That's okay. You sleep well, sweetheart. Daddy loves you." The next night when Daddy came in to read Jenny the story, Jenny was sitting in bed, and she was sitting on her bed cross-legged, and there was just these great big crocodile tears coming down her face. And he said, "Jenny, what's the matter?" And she just lifted up her hand, and she opened it, and it was her little pearl necklace. And with a quiver, she said, "Here, Daddy, these are for you." And Jenny's daddy reached in his pocket, and he pulled out a little velvet bag. And he said, "Jenny, here's some real pearls for you." Jenny had to be willing to let go of the lesser to get that which was greater. And sometimes in life, you and I have to do the same thing. We have to let go of that thing that we're hanging on to. We have to let go of the idea. We have to let go of a profession. We have to let go of a friendship, of a person. We have to let go of something in our life in order to have something greater. That's the critical part about our expansion of consciousness. It's a step that you and I have to take. We have to let go. And then we have to keep walking forward. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it means you're here on Sunday afternoon and there's a flood. But you have to clean up the water, and you got to be prepared, knowing that tomorrow is another day. Another day. And so the lesson in here is lift up thine eyes from the place where thou art. And look northwards and southwards and eastwards and westwards. Get the directions right this time. All that the land you see I will give to you and your descendants. Have to look up from the flood to see the majesty. We have to look away from the rain all week to know that we live in beautiful, sunny Florida. We have to look for a higher truth. We have to hang on to a higher truth. We have to look beyond what we see in this moment. Before every miracle, do you remember what Jesus did? He looked up. And I don't believe that the Bible meant so much. Now, we physically go like that, looking up to God, because our ancestors had this belief that God was out there. But I believe it means that he looked higher. He looked away from the situation he saw. And then he could go on to heal the lame and to feed the hungry. And a couple of weeks ago, I talked to you about Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founders of Unity School. They came to a decision in their life, and this was their commitment. We, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, husband and wife, hereby dedicate ourselves, our time, our money, all we have, all we expect to have to the Spirit of truth, and through it to the Society of Silent Unity. It being understood and agreed that said Spirit of truth shall render unto us an equivalent for this dedication in peace, mind, health of body, wisdom, understanding, love, life, and abundant supply of all things necessary to meet our every want without making any of these things the object of our existence. This commitment to them was as dependable as the rising and setting of the sun. They claimed the truth for themselves. And you and I are here today sitting in a church, a Unity church, because two very ordinary people got a glimpse of what it meant to have a higher consciousness, of the power of God living in them. And you and I, we can grasp onto that power of God that lives within us. It's what you and I can do, just like what they did. I have a third example about lifting your eyes. I have a friend, and she and her husband were moving into a new home, and it was the home of their dreams. It was only one problem. They hadn't yet sold the house they were living in. But they knew that God had brought them this house. It was the absolute perfect house for them. Had everything they wanted, everything they dreamed about. They talked about it. When they walked in the door, they knew it was their house. And here it was the day that they were supposed to be moving to that house, and they still hadn't sold the house they were in. And people said, well, what are you going to do? And they said, well, our house will sell. We know that house is our house. This house will sell. And so the moving day came, they had everything packed, and you know what? The movers didn't show up. Oh my gosh. The movers didn't show up, and they got 30 minutes after the movers were supposed to be there, and the movers didn't show up. And an hour, and the movers didn't show up. In 2 hours, and the movers didn't show up. But my friend, she called, and they'd say they're on their way. And she said, well, it must be divine delay. It's a divine delay. There must be something I've missed in this house. And she made another little round through the house to make sure everything was packed up. Divine delay. Could you do that if the movers were, when it got to 3 hours late? Would you be saying divine delay? At 3.5 hours, there was a knock on the door, and it was a couple that asked if they could come in and look at their house. They came in, and with all the boxes stacked everywhere, they said, this is the house we want to buy. They were there, and they sold their house. And 10 minutes later, the movers got there. Divine delay. So whether you choose to create miracles in your life, manifest lofty goals and dreams, or simply have your day-to-day life work better, I would invite you to always return home to the truth. Return home that you can lift your eyes to our higher consciousness. And to conclude, I have an affirmation that we're going to do together. And so I'm going to say an affirmation, and then I'm going to ask you to repeat it. Today, I return home to the divine that I am. Today, I return home to the divine I am. Today, I see beyond appearances in all situations. Today, I see beyond all situations. Today, I live in the flow of God's rich abundance. Today, I live in the flow of God's rich abundance. Today, I return home to knowing that God is my one and only source. Today, I return home to the knowing that God is my one and only source. Today, I see my oneness with all life. Today, I see my oneness with all life. Today, I return home to truth. Today, I return home to truth. And one more time, that last one. Today, I return home to truth. And so it is. Amen.